I am here with Dr. Gerald Nepom, who is the director of the Immune Tolerance Network, a most fascinating organization doing incredible studies. The one that I'm the most aware of is one about cat allergies, but I'm just dying to know more about this work, about the National Institutes for Health, about immune issues that are so seemingly prevalent in our society, and how incredible that there's work being done in many different areas. Dr. Jerry, welcome to the show. I should probably call you Doctor. What do you do when someone's an MD and a PhD? Do you get to say Doctor?
I answer best to Jerry, but thank you.
Well, it's always, to me, who has no letters after her name and yet knows a few things about a few things, it's always so amazing that people like yourself have so many letters after your name and such a deep interest and such deep knowledge about various areas. The cat allergy study that I'm trying so hard, and I hope I'm going to be successful in reaching out to my audience that may be allergic to cats or has always wanted to have a cat and can't because of an allergy or someone in their family. This particular study is most interesting. So if you can explain first what the Immune Tolerance Network is, because that in and of itself is awfully interesting and something that most of us wouldn't know anything about.
Yes, glad to do so. The Immune Tolerance Network is a very large organization sponsored predominantly by the National Institutes of Health. We're centered in Seattle, Washington, at the Benaroya Research Institute, and we have partner organizations in about 120 academic medical centers around the world.
Whoa.
That includes the United States, Canada, England, Mexico, and Australia.
Which is a huge number of places and people that you're the director of, not just all these places and people and countries, but so many different studies happening across that landscape.
It's a very exciting time for clinical trials and clinical research in immune diseases, not just allergy, but other diseases where the immune system goes awry and causes problems. We're trying to unify the therapies and do cutting-edge research with patient cooperation and volunteerism to really break down the barriers and make major advances in these fields.
I guess that for people with young children who have peanut allergies, or people who, or even someone like Venus Williams, the great tennis star, and her immune disease that no one had ever heard of, or a person like myself that didn't find out that I had celiac sprue disease until I was in my late 30s. And now they're testing gluten insensitivity, which I guess is an immune issue. I'm not sure. Even on young children, I don't even know on babies. Are those issues considered immune issues?
They are indeed. It's actually amazing, but there are about 80 different autoimmune and immune-mediated diseases. They're all unified by the fact that the immune system makes mistakes in our bodies. These are diseases that can affect all kinds of different organ systems, like you just mentioned, everything from peanut allergy to gut autoimmune disease to diseases that people have heard a lot about, like rheumatoid arthritis,
yes,
type 1 diabetes, or multiple sclerosis. These are all diseases where the immune system makes a mistake and attacks the body.
Would that be lupus also?
It is indeed.
Wow. So these are diseases that everyone listening has unfortunately probably been touched by at some point or other, or knows well somebody who is. In a way, it seems that the cat allergy study, which is of great fascination to me, and I really do hope that in all the most prestigious locations that you have this study ongoing. I mean, marvelous educational institutions, whether it's UCLA or Chapel Hill, North Carolina, or Northwestern and University of Chicago and so forth. I'm hoping that people will come forward. Is what you're looking for people to come forward who have a known cat allergy and it's something they'd like to be cured of, if you will?
That's exactly right. To enter this study, people need to be older than 18, and they need to have had a severe cat allergy for at least 2 years. And then they need to be willing to volunteer to participate with us for a 2-year period of time while we do experimental therapies, which is really, we can talk about that in a bit.
Right.
That's really what this study is all about, in order to try to permanently get rid of the allergy.
Now, sorry.
Excuse me.
No, please go ahead. No, you excuse me, because you were in the middle of a sentence.
I was just going to say that we don't know for sure that this is going to work. It is a clinical research. It is a clinical trial, but we're inviting the public people with severe cat allergy to join with us and try to figure this out.
It's funny because so many of us that are recipients of medical care as humans, we've heard of clinical trials for cancer a lot. I mean, that's the word clinical trial seems to come up a lot for people with cancer. But in terms of allergies, I don't know how many of us are aware of that clinical trials exist. You have the Immune Tolerance Network at the moment is running how many different trials, not for allergies entirely, but for immune issues, but clinical trials, all of them, I guess, yes?
That's right. We have about 27 current open clinical trials.
Wow.
Everything from allergy to autoimmune disease to diabetes to transplant, all unified by their attention to reverse immune damage or block the immune system from attacking tissue.
So if anybody has such a disease or it's in their family, would they go to the Immune Tolerance Network website and read which of the clinical trials are ongoing and whether they might be geographically close, or are most of them already filled and it's only the cat allergy trial that you're seeking participants?
No, we actually have open trials in many different areas. The cat allergy website is catallergyresearch.org, but if people want to see all the different trials that we have, that's www.immunetolerance.org, and you'll find easy links to all of the open trials on that site, as well as other information about the way we do our research.
Let's talk about allergies to cats. You say at least for 2 years you have a known allergy to cats. Does that, we don't mean anaphylactic shock where your throat closes up and you can't breathe, or maybe you do, but do you also mean just extreme itchy nose and eyes and red and watery and just feeling vile and have to leave the room that a cat's been in?
Yes, that's right. Basically, people who are considering standard allergy shots, for example, for desensitization to their cat allergy, are the ideal type of subject who might be interested in this trial. Because what we're doing is taking essentially the standard desensitization type of allergy shots and adding to that a weekly injection of an immune-modulating drug, a new experimental therapy that in combination we hope will make a huge difference in terms of permanently ablating the allergy.
So what is the big social drive? I mean, a lot of money has gone into this trial, for sure, and into developing this additional therapy that's added to what we could consider the traditional shots, if you will. What is the value socially? Is it for, it can't just be, or maybe it is, that people that would love to have a cat for a pet or want to keep a cat in a household where an adult is showing these allergic symptoms, that can't be the only reason. Is this a stepping stone to something else?
That's a very good point. Thanks for bringing that up. This trial is operating on two different levels, as you just outlined. There is the personal level. We hope to improve improve the lifestyles for people who want to have cats in the home and currently are having difficulty with that because of allergy. But the bigger question, the broader scope of this, is that this is a pioneering study to try to break new ground to test this important concept that by adding an allergen or an antigen or a protein like the cat shots, adding that to one of these immunomodulators that we now think are very potent natural hormones that the body uses to regulate the immune system. By making that combination therapy, we hope to have a proof of concept that will extend way beyond cat allergy.
Into these horrible diseases that you've mentioned that are life-threatening, life-ending, just devastating diseases.
Yes. Yes, this is, in that sense, this is a proof of concept trial. If it works as planned, we will be extraordinarily excited and will apply the same concept in parallel ways to many of the other immune-mediated diseases.
So what we'd like to say to people that might say, well, I really would love to have a cat, or so would my partner, and they're really allergic, you could both benefit yourself in a kind of selfish, get some great free therapy that if it works would be amazing and change your life, but you would be saving, if it works, you would be saving lives and improving quality of lives for many, maybe even potentially millions of people with many other immune issues, not as, if you will, almost benign as a cat allergy, because even though it's a dreadful feeling if you're really allergic to a cat, you can avoid a cat. But if you'd love to have a cat and or you understand how life-altering it is to have an immune problem where your life is at risk, you could be helping those people. I mean, is the altruistic part something that motivates people, or am I just a geek about that? I've always thought, I would love to give my blood. I did once at Harbor General Hospital in California. I remember years ago, I had 2 thyroid diseases, Graves' disease and Hashimoto's, and I had this incredibly high antibody titer. And they said, we're doing a study down at Harbor General, which in L.A. was a really long distance from Westwood or West Hollywood. Would you give some blood? And it had nothing to do with me or what was wrong with me, and I was happy to. I felt like, wow, wouldn't that be great if that just helped anybody anywhere? Do many people feel that way, or are people more cautious than I was?
No, I think you're exactly spot on. I mean, one of the most impressive and humbling experiences as a researcher is to come in daily contact with people who are volunteering for these studies out of a sense of altruism and volunteering their own time and their own body, essentially,
right,
for experimental therapies. It's a very impressive thing that people do when they join these trials, because there are additional doctor's visits, there is additional opportunity for minimal discomfort from extra drawing of blood and things like that. So it's not negligible. People have to be committed, but they are.
And do you have already a goodly number of people who have volunteered themselves, either slightly selfishly or slightly altruistically?
Well, the study only started just recently, so we are actively looking right now for people who will join the trial. We have started, and we do have people who have already volunteered, but we're hoping over the next few months, over the next 6 to 8 months, that we'll get much larger numbers of people who are interested in the trial and who join with us and work with us on this.
So what we're really saying is that people who know that when there's a cat in the room, or even a cat has been in the room, much less a cat that they've stroked or has been on their lap, that they have allergic reactions, those people have a reaction in their system, in their body, in their blood, that is valuable to you in this study. By using that blood and by interacting with those people with your ingredients, if you will, you might be able to help them overcome those reactions and use that for even a bigger, broader canvas of life-threatening illnesses.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I mean, it's really important that people understand that, because otherwise people might say, well, yeah, I really love cats, or I really love that partner of mine more than the cat that I had to give away. But it's something deeper and more, and you could be part of something that matters, part of something that really changes the landscape for these diseases, which I think feels like more and more get discovered, if you will. But then there doesn't seem to be, for many of them, any kind of a cure. It's just like a horrible, almost death sentence, or you have to avoid something for life. I'm going to say the places where your clinical sites are, but everybody can also go to the website. Is immunetolerance.org the best place, or for the cat one, there's a more specific one that you already said before? Is it? Say it again.
CatAllergyResearch.org is the study-specific site, and www.immunetolerance.org is the immune tolerance site.
Okay, so the places where researchers, and they're really fantastic places, I mean, like UCLA in Los Angeles, National Jewish Health in Denver, Colorado, Northwestern and University of Chicago in Chicago, Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, UNC Chapel Hill in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Asthma Inc. in Seattle, Washington, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. These are all places that people wish they'd gone to school. If they went to school there, they're like, yeah, that's my alma mater. These are serious research, teaching, wellness institutes with many of them with huge hospitals, huge teaching hospitals, right? I mean, they're very impressive locations.
The medical community is very excited about this trial for the same reasons we already mentioned. This could be a precedent for the kind of combining immune therapies with standard therapies that we really hope will transform lives for many different immune-mediated diseases and allergies.
So here's a question about children and cats and dogs. I do understand that people who have a cat allergy don't necessarily have a dog allergy, and that their reaction to cats is always much greater, which I'm sure is why it's a valuable marker for your study. But there's this, I've heard, and maybe it's just a new wives' tale, not an old wives' tale, that exposing infants and little children to dogs and cats, maybe even horses, lessens the chance that they will have allergic reaction to them later. Is any of that true? Is that just a myth that floats around?
No, actually, it's really quite an interesting question. I can't give you a straight yes or no answer today on this, but there's a lot of work going on in this area. The immune system, we've learned a lot about the immune system in the last few years. One of the things that makes this CATNIP trial possible now is the new knowledge about the immune system and the opportunity to do this combination therapy, which the opportunity didn't exist a few years ago because we didn't know enough. And specifically about infant exposure, we're learning now that the immune system in the neonatal period needs to be conditioned. It needs to be trained so that as kids grow a little bit older, the immune system is balanced. It balances between the regulation part of it and the activation part of it. And it turns out that early exposures to a number of things actually help the immune system achieve that balance. So the specifics of exactly how much and when to expose children to really are known only for a few allergens, like peanut, for example, we just reported in February. But we don't know the exact details yet for cat or dog.
And what was the report for peanut, which has become a pandemic of children? Their lives are threatened by breathing in peanut dust. What is the new best advice about peanut exposure in little kids?
Yeah, that was one of our studies done by the Immune Tolerance Network, published in February. Got about 500 media reports, so people may have heard about it. Just last week, the National Institute of Health and the American Academy of Allergy issued the new guidelines for pediatricians and families based on the results of our. And the new guidelines are that, indeed, we do want to expose children starting at 4 months of age as they're beginning to be weaned off of breastfeeding. We do want to expose them to peanut protein in the form of either some peanut candies or peanut butter or something that's safe,
right,
so that they don't choke. But early exposure is very good and beneficial in terms of peanut allergy.
And what about cats? We don't know yet about cats and dogs and little children?
Unfortunately, we haven't done the same kind of rigorous prospective testing yet with cats or dogs, so I can't give you the same kind of definitive answer. But there is a lot of work going on in that area right now. It's
really interesting because I guess who knows what happened in our society, since it's such a peanut butter and jelly society, where it went from the typical child's meal for often the first 5 years of their life to being something that so many moms can't make anything, can't have kids over for a snack, can't make cookies for class, because of this severe peanut reaction. Is an allergy to a cat something that's known to be genetic? If the parents are allergic to cats, does that get passed on, or don't we know that either?
There is a minor genetic component. It has to do with establishing the thresholds for the type of immune response that leads to an allergy. But it's not very strong. It's not very dominant, so that we don't conventionally think of cat allergy as a genetic disease at all.
Interesting. And what about when the baby's in utero? Does it matter? I can't imagine it matters what the mother is exposed to or eats.
Well, there's a lot of people who are studying that right now.
No kidding.
Again, I don't know I can't give you an answer to that, but that's become an area of considerable interest.
Well, it's very interesting to all of us, and what you're doing at the Immune Tolerance Network is amazing. Anybody that would like to learn more about this, or maybe has a friend that lives in one of these geographical areas where the clinical trials are going on, please go to catallergyresearch.org. There'll also be a link to it along with the podcast of this show. And Dr. Jerry, thank you so much for the work you're doing. It's completely fascinating. And, of course, anybody who's curious about all your other clinical trials can go to immunetolerancenetwork.org. Thanks for the great work. I hope lots of cat allergic people will offer themselves up to help both with their ability to have kitties in their life, but also to further the really marvelous work that you're doing there. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Tracy, and thank you for bringing this to the attention of your listeners.
It was a pleasure. Thanks so much.